Welcome to the MBVS Show. Boom! I'm your host, Mark Hayford, coming at you like a delicious blueberry pie on a picnic table during summertime at your kid's bar mitzvah. And I didn't come alone. No, I did not. I brought a gaggle of friends, some of the best in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the Big Apple with the five-time author, trauma and bereavement specialist, 30 years in the game. When you don't see him on Dr. Phil, when you don't see him on CNN, when he's not on the blimp, ladies and gentlemen, he's right here. It's Dr. Norman Freed. I just made the blimp thing up. That's never actually happened yet.
Never happened.
Yet.
Never.
Yet. Listen, coming up next, we got one bad mamma jamma, college professor, neuroscientist. We'll dissect your brain right here on this video. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Haley Nelson.
That would be a good future episode. Whose brain is going to be my subject?
Moving on, we will go to the lady who lives where there's palm trees and a cool breeze. What does she not do? Children's author, podcaster, producer, voiceover, the one that changes all the bad words so your kids can watch a movie. Barbara Heller.
Hey.
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Oregon to New York City, back to Oregon, our special guest today, mindset coach, mentor. He's got a green closet. He's an athlete. He's a podcaster. Jeremy, not wrong, Burright.
Right.
Jeremy.
Let's talk about that closet for a second there, Jeremy.
Hey, what's going on, Jeremy? Welcome to the show. What's up with the closet?
I mean, my family's moving from my childhood home. They took all my stuff out.
That's such a metaphor, Jeremy. That's such a metaphor.
They didn't even ask.
Condoing your life.
Yeah, they tried to do it before I left or before I came back.
And you said that's not happening. All right. Hey, let's rip into this little disclaimer. All right. The content heard here today is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare providers. Any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or potential mental illness, never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard in this room. Friends, we come here stomping through the summer of 2022 in the name of mental wellness. This show is for you. It's about you. It's from us. So if you have questions that you would like to pose to us that we could help, that we could answer, we would love to jump into it. Send us something. Reach out. Say, I'm dealing with this. I have a question, and we'd love to get your question on this video. So, peeps, welcome. We have some questions. I think it's time to rip into this, right? So, all right. We have some versatility in the questions today. So I'm just putting everybody on notice here. All right. This comes to us from Jim. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. We never say who these questions come from, right? All right. Years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder by a doctor I no longer see. I see this other doctor now occasionally, but I don't think he does anything to help me. I've been taking medication, but I do not need it anymore. It's this new doctor just doesn't listen to me. I don't think he's helping me. In fact, he frustrates me. Plus, I've been fine for years. So I'm just going to go off my medication. I guess my question is that okay? Now, look, before we answer this, can we just say that we're not giving medical advice specifically on this show? We're painting with a broad brush. So let's Picasso it up, fam. Who would like to tackle this one first?
I'll jump in first as the neuroscientist and with my background in pharmacology. First of all, I am so thankful and grateful that this person wrote this question because I think that this is a common thing. I get asked this a lot by some of my students and friends and clients. So I feel fine. I'm just going to go off my meds. So word of caution is a lot of the way that these medications work. And I don't know the specific details of the medication that this particular person was on, but they take time to start working. And then they also can change the chemistry and the set point of your brain and how your neurons are functioning. So if you just abruptly stop taking them, your brain you can start having seizure activity. There's so many side effects and things that can start happening. You can start going through withdrawal symptoms. So I would encourage and urge this person to, if they're not happy with their current physician that they're working with who's prescribing this medication, to find somebody who they are comfortable speaking with and saying, hey, I'm feeling okay. Oh, my dog's about to bark. I hope she's quiet. There she is.
Dr. Haley's a real person.
I'm a
It's
real
out.
person. I have a dog and UPS just drove by. I'm sorry. But to encourage them to go find somebody who they feel comfortable speaking with and sharing these thoughts and concerns with them, because it's definitely not advised, especially when you're talking about psychedelic and psychotropic medications, to just stop them abruptly cold turkey. And maybe the reason why this person is feeling better is because the medications are actually working. So to start going off of them might not be the best choice. Maybe it is time to move on, but that should be the decision that you work on with a healthcare professional who can make sure that you're doing it in a safe way, that you're titrating it off, or maybe finding a different medication that would better suit that individual.
All right.
So I
Again,
appreciate
just go talk to somebody, go talk to the prescribing physician to make that
Right,
decision.
So I'm going to dovetail with that, and thank you for saying those things, because from a neurological perspective, it's very important that we care for our physiology. I also want to remind everyone that when we come off of some of these psychotropic medications, we feel fine for 3, 4, 5 days because there's a long half-life. And we say, hey, I didn't take it for 3 days and I'm no worse for the wear. Then the titration begins, and we actually may not be recognizing that we've declined cognitively. So listen to Dr. Haley and do your research. But I also want to add the talking piece, right? Which is, if this person is not happy with their clinician or physician, the option to just come off the medicine is not the ideal one. Another option is to find a new therapist, a new psychiatrist, and or a new psychologist, or to discuss with this particular person why it is you don't feel comfortable. It's not necessarily that the therapist or the psychiatrist is missing their knowledge base. It might be that they are saying things you don't like to hear, and that together with an honest dialogue, you could perhaps understand that difficult things may be hard to integrate, but are necessary to make changes. Change is not ever an easy experience. And if you think about Michelangelo carving out the David, the granite was really being chiseled away. If you think about yourself as part of that granite, you will be a beautiful piece of art one day, but it hurts to get there. Don't give up. Give it more of a chance.
That was a Norman nugget right there. That was hot.
That was
All right.
nice.
Thanks.
I guess I'll jump in real quick. I'm so glad you guys answered this first. I don't have much to add because I look to you for questions like this. However, I am a big proponent of talking about the fact for a lot of people that sometimes they are overprescribed medications. They are sometimes given the wrong diagnosis. And that only happens when we have the courage to ask these questions. So I'm also glad, like Dr. Haley and Dr. Norman said, that you even asked this question, because it's so common, especially today, with people just giving out medication. You don't feel good? I'll just prescribe this and I'll call you this. But please find someone that you can trust, that has the expert knowledge, that is recommended by someone you really trust. If you look for it, you will find a good recommendation. So often we just, who's in our plan? You know, sometimes you get what you pay for. You have to find someone that really speaks to your heart and your soul. And I'll also make another plug, as I do every single time, it's so boring, for spirituality as well as creativity, to be part of the beautiful cascade treasure chest of all the things that can make you feel better. There are lots of unfortunate ramifications that come from taking medication. Some of that is shame. Some of that is feeling humiliated and whatever that is. There are support groups for that. There are places you can go. And there are also things that you can do to make yourself feel better and have the tools to get out of those tough situations when you feel them. And I'm a big proponent of finding some sort of spiritual place, community, just opening your mouth and talking to whatever you want to call it, the Schwartz, God, the universe, and saying, how can I deal with this right now? And then also just creating, making sure you take space to create.
Beautiful. And by the way, I would never think that spirituality is boring. It's brilliant. I'm glad you bring it up every week.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc.
Jeremy, what do you got, man? Welcome to the hot seat. I mean, this is not an easy topic. It could be borderline controversial. What is your take on this?
It's not, but one of the things that I'd like to point out to the person that sent this in is that they have a nice win. You know, if anyone says that I felt fine for 2 years, you know, I don't know where you came from in the first place, but I know that 2 years of a prolonged feeling pretty good as your standard basis, I'm really happy with. So I think sometimes I want you to just take that moment to be like, hey, congratulations to me. And good for me for having that time, that prolonged period, because I know our bodies get used to things over time. You think about the athlete that's learning how to run a triathlon, they don't set out to run 26 miles the first day. They set out to just get to the end of the block sometimes, even when they're out of shape. And so when I look at you with your journey, and I look at others as they go along their journey of becoming the person they like to be and to have that calm sense every single day, I love the fact that you said you felt fine for 2 years. And so I'd like for you to take that in, and regardless of what your physician says, regardless of what your parents or other mentors have said to you in your life, I want you to receive that win from the universe that's been able to help you. And it's been able to make you feel a good traction, or have some good traction in your life. So I'm happy for you. And before we make, any decisions, it's really interesting. The one thing I want to say last is sometimes we're asking for permission of something that we already want to do. Something that in your heart, you're like, okay, I want to do something like this. Obviously, I'm with Dr. Norman Fried and Dr. Haley, and I will resign with them at all times when it comes to making big decisions. But I just want you to know that you're seeking permission at times to make a decision you'd like to already make.
It's a great take. Yeah, it's a great take, man. What a round table of variety of angles to come at this, because there's going to be people that watch this that hate all of these answers because they're just total anti-medication. There's people that are more just holistic based. There are people that say, no, you need medication. So this is not a one size fits all answer. It's an interesting question. And again, I'm sure it can just vary from person to person and specifically for each individual. UPS man outside the Get Up studio. So there you go. Just distracting.
Maybe it was the same guy.
Maybe we live close enough.
From my house to yours.
Yeah, maybe. Get off my lawn.
Also, Mark, on the flip side of that, there might be some people watching who might be practitioners that are saying, how could they even ask this? Just trust your doctor. And so therein lies this show, which is where we have the courage to ask the gray. There's two people wearing gray today, questions, and find the colors, right? Instead of the black and white rote answers that sometimes don't always work.
Yeah, absolutely. And, listen, we all are on Clubhouse, and we have our mental wellness Wednesdays, our mental wellness room, right? And we've heard this before where so many people come in, and we've heard this question before from various people. And we've also had a lot of people come in talking about therapy. And this will dovetail into our next question, where they say therapy doesn't work for me. And what I've heard so many times as the foundational answer is not that therapy doesn't work for you, because therapy works. Maybe you're not working with the right therapist, which will go right into this next one that I want to just bring to our attention here from our next, I was going to say listener, but I guess it's viewer. Okay. I think I have depression. I'm not sure though. My doctor said she'd put me on an antidepressant, but I'd like to try going to therapy first, but I'm scared. I don't know what to expect. What kind of therapist should I go to? Will it actually help me? I don't want people to know that I'm talking to someone, so maybe I should just take the antidepressant. Any thoughts? And my thought before I pose it to the board here is, therapists go to therapy, right? Therapy in 2022, man. Like we've been through the ringer here. Like nobody gets out unscathed in the 2020s, right? There ain't no shame in the game, boo. But what do all of you have to bring to the table with this one?
I also am so glad that this person asked the question, right? The fact that they're doing enough self-reflection to say, you know what, I just don't feel right. Maybe it's depression, maybe it's not. Maybe it's, just my overstress reactivity or something like that. But the fact that they're asking this question is the first step in the right direction. Now, what is going to work best for this individual has to be very individualized. Maybe medication will help, maybe not. I love the fact that they're trying to take alternative routes before just going with the medication route, because it might not be needed. And there are other holistic ways that can help alleviate some of these mood symptoms to help them feel better. But it's not uncommon for people to be afraid of trying something new, especially when there's the stigma around mental illness and mental wellness, which is why we're doing this in the first place to hopefully raise awareness and destigmatize it. But I mean, I hope Dr. Norman will share what it's like if you're a new patient of his to come in, what to expect. But a lot of times, first of all, the first meeting is just getting to know each other and making sure that you're a good fit, understanding your background. But there's many different types of therapy out there, whether you're looking at what happened in the past, whether you're focusing on the here and now, or whether you're looking towards the future. And that's just very big picture umbrella terms, but you really have to find not only the practitioner that meshes best with you, but also the modality that they're using, the techniques that they're using. And don't be afraid to ask them questions. If they're afraid or hesitant to answer your questions, that's not the right one for you, right? So the fact that this person is asking this question in the first place means that hopefully they're not afraid to continue to ask so that they can find the best help that's right for them, because you're interviewing the therapist just as they're interviewing you to make sure it's a good fit. And it doesn't matter what letters they have behind their name or in front of their name. What matters is that you're comfortable and that you are willing to open up and share so that they can help guide you in the right direction.
Haley, that's beautiful, and I'm glad you mentioned my name. Sorry if there's noise in the background here. There's some
Is that the UPS guy?
Maybe. But first I want to say that many of us experience a sense of stigma when it comes to psychotherapy. But I beg our viewers to recognize that in getting yourself guidance and help, you're actually stronger than those that don't. So it's not weak to ask for help. It's strong to ask for help, and it's impressive. So please recognize that from my side of the couch, I love it when people come in and say, I need to fix something that feels wrong inside. Having said that, yes, Dr. Haley, there are many different modalities of therapy. And like other relationships, it is a goodness of fit. So please have the courage to reach out to a therapist that you believe can be helpful. The gender may make a difference to you, it may not. The age may make a difference to you, it may not. But what's so important, whether it's behavioral therapy, where you make contracts with your therapist, or it's existential therapy, where you talk about your fear of life and death, or even perhaps some type of psychopharmacological relationship, the love that germinates between you and your therapist is the most healing component. So whatever medicine you're taking, whatever formulation or language your therapist is using, please try to feel as safe and secure as possible. It's a very, very challenging world, perilous for many of us. And when you have a place that feels safe and loving and secure, that's when the healing will begin. Love is the real medicine that we're in search of.
Jeremy, do you want to take it before I go?
Sure. And we can just tell people that's my stomach growling. It's not construction. It's just lunchtime.
I was going to say, is it lunchtime, Norm?
The one thing that I encourage others to do is something that my friend encouraged me once. And I was the person when something happened to me when I was a little kid, I never saw therapy. It was our therapist. I was we don't need that in our family. You know, we're tough. We're strong. We don't need to go talk to someone. And as a little kid, I looked up to, my family, and I was like, okay, I'm strong. I don't need this. And I remember being in college and I'm hanging out with my best friend, just met at a great party a few weeks before. And we're talking late nights, 3 hours and every time, playing video games. And he goes, I think I'm going to go talk to someone tomorrow about some stuff. And I was like, yeah, like what's going on? He's like, some stuff with my family, eating his popcorn. He's like, I think I'm just going to talk to a therapist. And I was like, I remember looking at him like, dude, you make that seem so casual. He's like, yeah, probably about once a month, once every couple months, if something's going on, just go talk it out, get my feelings out. And from a man's perspective, from an athlete's perspective, I remember looking at him and I was so appreciative of how normal he made it. Mm. And one of the things I say is when you're looking for something new in your life, when someone makes it normal to you and you respect them, it just made it so much easier for me to go seek therapy for the first time. And it didn't have to be a heavy thing. It didn't have to be I saw it as, we're just going to go talk about some stuff and then see where it went from there. Now, I did end up with some tears and some tissues, and that was personal for myself, but I understood the fact that it didn't have to be this big deal to talk to someone because the person I looked up to did.
Mm.
Wow, beautiful. I'm going to talk about a personal story too. When I was about 31 years old, I went through I've talked about this before on the show. I went through a very acute period of major anxiety and depression or depressive feelings. And it rocked me to my core because I had always been the same person that I am now, just very positive, always looking for the good and always trying to collect new tools in my toolbox. And I had a lot of them at the time. But the depression got so bad, excuse me, getting verklempt here, that I had to go and see a psychiatrist for the first time. And my dad, being a psychologist and always saying, you don't need medicine, medicine's the worst, blah, blah, blah. And I'd never done a drug, still to this day. It really rocked me. And I started contemplating different, Zoloft and all kinds of medications. And I went and sought out a good psychiatrist. And it was so weird. I just put this in my book, this whole scene. And it was almost like walking into a movie, just like the scene and how she had a red nose. I'll never forget. She had a cold and she was like white, but with this red nose, like, Rudolph. And I was like shaking, and I felt like I was having an out of body experience because I was so conditioned, similar to Jeremy. Instead of being therapy was always good, but medicine bad. And so I was like floating off the ground, and she started naming medications and telling me the side effects. And she kept saying that, some of them could, God forbid, cause suicidal thoughts. And I said, I already feel like so bad. Why would I put myself? So it was it was such a horrifying, traumatic experience for me, unfortunately. And that's not why I'm telling you this. There are better therapists out there who can really help
don't
you.
Go to that one. That's why.
No, yeah, just don't go to, I won't say her name, but yeah. But the point is that I knew my body was telling me, try other things first. And so that day I decided to do all the things. I made a list of all the things I hadn't tried yet in terms of diet. Like Dr. Haley said on my podcast, diet is so important. Sleep is so important. Meditation, exercise in a specific way that I hadn't ever tried before. And I did all of those things. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because I was in such a dark place. Medication probably would have helped me had I had a small enough dose and the right therapist at the time. I didn't. So for me, that was my thing. But I also used a ton of prayer at the time. And I just kept, instead of saying, why is this happening to me? I kept saying, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? And I had the courage. It took a lot of strength to sit and put my hands on my belly and breathe and do a ton of breath work. I mean, the list was so long of not everyone can do like 20 things, right? But there are tons of other things you can try if you haven't done the medication yet. And again, I'm going to go back to Dr. Haley and Dr. Norman. Find someone that you can trust first, who might be able to give you that entry into medication if that's the route that you take.
I mean, again, so much wisdom and perspective here, and I feel like so many times we go through our own journeys, and so we can share and encourage others. How can you give wisdom and perspective on something you've never dealt with? So. Wow. Just the round table here. I always learn something on this show. And the perspective I have is this show is about to end because we're unfortunately out of time. It goes like this. But before we do, I want to just run through the round table and just any final thoughts, any words of encouragement for everyone till we commune back together next week. Let's go ladies first. Dr. Haley, anything for the viewers?
Well, both of those two viewers were asking questions. So keep asking those questions, keep being curious, and keep going till you find the answer that best works for you, and find people to help you find those answers. So just keep asking questions is my advice this week.
Love it. What do you got, Barb?
Something tells me that everyone should know of a good therapist, whether it's a psychologist, psychiatrist, LCSW, but find a clinician that's close to you, even if it's not for you in those difficult times that we all grow through, the way Jeremy said so beautifully, and we all do need it sometimes. No one is perfect. Everyone's human, even the therapists need therapists. But for someone else who might be going through a difficult time, I think it's really important to have that in your call, Rolodex, as we used to say in the 80s, your address book, have somebody that you can count on, that you can refer. So I feel like that should be homework for everybody that's watching.
Great take. Great back out of the metaverse. Hey, Jeremy, any final last minute thoughts or just words of encouragement for any of the viewers that are checking us out?
Sure. I would just encourage people to have somebody that's a mentor in their life. At least one person that they can talk to, even if it ends up not being a therapist. And even if it ends up being someone that's the same age as them. Because a lot of times what people are seeking, and you saw it in both questions, is permission. And it's permission to be the person that they're like, okay, I feel this. I feel this somewhere in my heart. I feel this somewhere in my body. I want to be like this, or I want to make this decision, but I'm scared. And a lot of times we're looking for permission, not necessarily of somebody that we respect, before we make these kind of decisions. So I want people to lean a little bit more into themselves and to appreciate that, but then also have a good soundboard and someone that they trust. And when you're looking for someone like that in your life, I look for people that are transparent. You know, even from a therapist or a mentor, I'm looking for someone who is able to tell the truth of where they've been in their life. And you're always in the buyer's seat. Whenever you're looking for someone new in your life that's going to be a benefit to you, you are the buyer. And you can ask them any question you'd like and be like, hey, this is my body, this is my life, this is really important to me. And then ask the question so that they know you're coming from a place of strength, even if you're coming from a place of weakness. Thanks for having me, guys.
It's great stuff, brother. Thank you. Dr. Norman, land our plane. What do you have?
No, I would like to say thank you to Jeremy. I love what you said. In particular, there really is no place of weakness. The truth is, when we recognize that we're feeling weak, we're really at our strongest. It takes bravery to be afraid. It takes strength to be weak. So brilliant, Jeremy. And I would end by suggesting or assuring everyone that the theme of today's show is about connection. Whether it's connection with a therapist or a friend or a mentor or clergy that you can trust. Staying connected to somebody or others in this world is how, and Barb would agree, how we experience a piece of the divine. And with that, we grow into healthier versions of ourselves. Stay connected and you will heal.
Beautiful. Wow.
Bravo, team. Bravo. Great stuff. I'll just end it with number one. I look good this episode. You can't even lie. Okay. And I think it matches my eyes. And two, listen, if you're still here, hey, there's a reason you're still here. You're blessed, right? Mark Twain said it, 2 greatest times to plant a tree, 20 years ago and right now. So figure out what tree you should be planting now. Rest of your life is in front of you. So for my friends, Dr. Haley, Dr. Norman, Barb, and our special guest, Jeremy, stay blessed, progress. We will see you guys next week on the MBVS show. Peace.